Let's get into it. Welcome to Last Call Reacts, the Last Call channel here. Um, so we're here today. First of all, RIP to other people who have passed away before we get to our more or less main feature that we have today. We've had the passing of one of the greats, Jimmy Cliff, one of the great reggae musicians, recently passed away. RIP to him. And also found out by one of my homegirls' pages, Keeper116, that the last Tulsa survivor has passed away. Also, she went by the name of Mother Fletcher. And today, the one that I'd like to highlight is one Jamil Abdullah Al-Amin, also known as H. Rap Brown, a Black Panther. Now, let's go into a couple things here. Of course, being Black Panthers, people that I sometimes consider, or not even sometimes, if they're around, political prisoners of the movement and for justice as well, that these people are not without controversy. And H. Rap Brown definitely is part of that as well. And it's another testament to it's never over, right? It's never over. I'd like to give my opinion on a few things. But first, let's find out a little bit more about who Mr. H. Rap Brown was and why his name should still resonate with the community. You know, we tend to focus on a lot of others around the time, more of the ones that were more talking heads or highlighted, you know, the Malcolms, the Martins. But then you got this other movement that came up through the struggle as well, and just different ways of achieving the same thing, which is justice, peace, equality, and equity. So this gentleman, he was born October 4th, 1943. And of course, he passed just a couple of days ago, November 23, 2025. Um, few things here. So what he was known for, that he was part of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, otherwise known as SNCC. If you remember back in the day, there were two kind of buttonhead parties. There was SNCC and there was SLCS as well, which was more associated with Martin Luther King. Now, he's known for two things. Well, not known for two things, but more like two sayings, which also shows his sentiment in the movement as well. He was known for saying violence is as American as cherry pie. I always thought it should be apple pie, but maybe cherry pie was a thing back then over the apple pie. And if America don't come around, this was in a larger context. If America don't come around, we're going to burn it down. And you really just have to put that in context, which I hope to get into in my live Friday at 9 p.m. You know, just covering a few of these things and a few of these things, and hopefully a couple of videos as well. Brown is also known for his autobiography, Die, Nigger, Die. Yes, I'm putting it out there. That is the title. Um, and he was, where he passed away, his story is very different. So unlike a lot of other political prisoners where they kind of locked away and took away from society and the community, he actually did some time and got out. And then he was living, I guess, as close to a peaceful life as you could live after being scoped out by the COINTELPRO, which he was one of the activists that they tried to quote unquote neutralize. So his activism in the civil rights movement included the stint, as I said, at SNCC. Brown was introduced to SNCC by his older brother, Ed Brown. He first visited Cambridge, Maryland, and remember that name, Cambridge. This is the one associated with him that would cause him to seek exile before a prison sentence, with the Cleveland Sellers in the summer of 1963. All right. So you think the Black Panther Party, they're around 67, 68 and stuff. A lot of these guys were active way before, just like a lot of the leaders. They were doing stuff to be able to build their movement and to galvanize the people as well. Also, to mention just the commitment that it took back then to support anything or be about everything. You had to get, there was no internet, there was no, you had to organize. You had to honor your commitments. You had to stay committed. More than just like, share, which I'm going to ask you to do. Now is a good time to do that. Like, share, and subscribe. Um, you had to go places. You had to go to meetings. But most importantly, you had to be educated. These are university students. These are students that often earned doctorates once they were finally allowed to be up in those schools, like Huey P. Newton and Eldridge Cleaver and many others. Dr. Angela Davis, who is said to be coming out with a documentary on Assata Shakur. So look, because that's probably the most authentic thing that we'll be able to see. All of these guys deserve to be highlighted, have documentaries and thorough uh, um, features and highlights in their name, of their likeness, and what they've accomplished. And there's something else I'll leave you with when I'm done with some of this. I don't want my time to be super long on here. Just wanted to, pay my respects, just like many of you want to as well. So we joined the SNCC, and he witnessed the first riot between white people and black people in the cities over civil rights issues. And he was impressed by how the local people organized and protested. So much so, when he organized back in 1963, 64, he went down to Mississippi and did the Freedom Summer. Remember the Freedom Summer and things over there as well? Remember the three that went disappearing? Two Jewish guys, the one black guy, Mississippi burning. Then he transferred to Howard University for his studies, and he represented the SNCC chapter there. He continued the civil rights movement. He also went to the meeting at the White House with President. It was a civil rights meeting, which Lyndon Johnson was there during the Selma crisis, along with many other activists. Major civil rights legislation was passed in 1964-65, as we know, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, to establish federal oversight and enforcement of the right. In 1966, he again organized in Greene County, Alabama, to achieve black voter registration. So he was involved and very much mobile in moving around and trying to galvanize and unite people, because these were very turbulent times. As I said, I'll save a little 2 minutes of my commentary till the end here. Elected SNCC chairman, Brown continued Stokely Carmichael, also known as Kwame Tore's fiery support of Black power and urban rebellions in northern ghettos. Remember that part in Sinners where Sammy was asking what Chicago is like? He's like, it's just like here, racism, everything, just taller buildings. During the summer of 1967, Brown toured the nation, calling for violent resistance. And of course, we're seeing the fork in the road, the split between the two organizations and the two leaders, SLC, who would support Martin Luther King and his nonviolent movement, and then going over to the Black Panther Party, which would be the SNCC kind of fork in the road, that side, which would mirror the teachings and the ideologies of Malcolm X as well. Now, this is the interesting thing. Like many of them had were got caught up in Trump charges. Use that name now. They put charges. They went to attack these guys. There was friendly fire amongst the cops and the feds. They actually ended up hurting themselves. When you actually go through this and you go through some of the evidence as it's laid out, you will find so many inconsistencies that today they would have to drop the case because it's just been muddled up so much. And the eagerness being so overzealous and wanting to create villains, there was many oversights, much sloppy work. But since they all worked in the tidal wave of racism, suppression, and oppression, they were able to do these convictions, and they were able to do it under COINTELPRO, under a government that wanted to do this. And one of the things that I wanted to say that I always think is interesting with this, because you compare this with many others, fights for equality, justice, reparations, assimilations, and everything as well. And you look even till recently, you know, Black people in this country never had any Nuremberg trials. Nobody was ever made accountable or to apologize for the state that they enslaved people in. And I just find the difference between other communities is one that, so we take the Jewish community, like we were saying, we have the Nuremberg trials, and nothing against that. This is the way world justice should be. But in America here, we don't track down the perpetrators of the violence. We track down till the end of their lives the ones who fought against it. And it's a very and with propaganda, through media, through policies, they make everyday people agree with these policies as well. So back to Cambridge. In 1967, Brown spoke to the city saying it's time for Cambridge to come to explode. Black folks built America, and I'm kind of paraphrasing here. Um, and if they don't come around, meaning, if there's no justice, we're going to burn America down. So they were very serious about it. Piece by piece or by any means necessary, right? This is what this means. This is what the mentality, not just going around and causing mass confusion and chaos everywhere. But to get now, since we tried the peaceful way, we have to get our peace by all the violence that has been inflicted toward Black people in the Black communities. It's time to put that to a stop, and not only put it to a stop, but to fight back. That it can't go any further than that. Gunfire reportedly broke out later. And both Brown and the police officer were wounded. A fire started that night. By the next day, 17 billion buildings were destroyed by expanding fires. Now, I'm just going to wrap this up because I don't want it to be too long. And like I said, I might revisit this in my live also. So even they're saying, and this is something to think about the other riots where places have burned down, that it wasn't just, or that they call riots. They're not necessarily riots of Black people just looting and burning down their own neighborhoods. There was an attacked civil unrest, means something happened in these neighborhoods. And that a fire, it wasn't actually from some sort of race riot, that there was actually a small fire that the fire department, and I want to show a video on Friday, so please make sure that you like, share, subscribe so I could open this up a little bit more and show you. Firefighters have also confessed to this, that not only sometimes they would be a little bit slow in responding to fires in Black communities, but dare I say, they would sometimes leave people trapped in these situations. When we think about, police brutality, we're talking about all systems around that could do a little better, that could move a little bit more ethically and morally. But we see in all the institutions and all the facets around, everybody seemed to oppose Black equality back in the day. Back in the day, and even recently, as we could see now. Brown became a target for COINTELPRO, as we mentioned, the counterintelligence program by J. Edgar Hoover, meaning not only they would shine a spotlight or a microscope face that in your direction, but they would make your life very difficult. And where it's quoted, they say their goal is to neutralize anybody that could unite the community or advocate for peace. This was their job, to do away with that. They let everything run around in the neighborhood, the chaos, crime. But once somebody stands up to say that they want better, all the civil rights leaders, that's when they get put under this COINTELPRO, get treated more harshly outside. Um, I'm just going to move it along because it's a little longer than I want. And as I said, I'll attack it a little bit more on my live there, which you guys should join me. So the Cambridge fire was amongst many instances investigated in 1967 and 68 as well. And like I said, the stories differ on how the fire broke out. And there are many different accounts to that. Anyway, long story short, they charged H. Rap Brown for inciting the riots. He went on the run for a little while until he was eventually caught somewhat peacefully. So while he was being held for trial, he continued his high-profile activism. He accepted requests from Student Afro-American Society to speak at Columbia University to help represent organize the 1968 Columbia protest. He also did a lot of writing. He did everything. And some of the parts that basically I want to get into, so he gets into his trial. It was to take place in Cambridge. They moved the place to Bel Air, Maryland. So it's supposed to be around, a jury of your peers. This is not that. Now it was to start on 1970, March 1970. On March 9th, 1970, two SNCC officials died on the way to Bel Air to the courthouse when a bomb in the front floorboard of the car exploded and offed two of them, two of his supporters. Now the story of that differs a little bit as well. They don't know if they were bringing the bomb to the courthouse. I don't even know if I should speak so recklessly, or if the car itself was actually targeted. So anyway, he stands trial. After he disappears for 18 months or so, and then he gets about 5 years. Now, this is unlike many of the others that went to prison that they tried to subdue, that they tried to suppress and get rid of. Because a lot of them would have life sentences in jail if they would make it. One of the most tragic stories is Huey P. Newton. We know Geronimo got out some years ago and moved directly to Africa, the country known as Tanzania, I believe. And there's a documentary called Black Panther in Africa, where it follows his journey of also bringing aggregation to one of the villages or most of the villages there, as was his effort when he got out. But that's how one of them. And one of the things I did as I close up here that I always want to mention, that I'm always fascinated with, is if we put this in context of what this country did. And yes, we speak about it like we speak about every other person's history that is valid to them also. This country essentially made refugees out of people on their own land. And not only that, twisted and bent and broke laws to create the policies to keep everything status quo. When you had these groups coming out for self-defense, these are groups that fed children, Stevie Knight, the children that weren't starving at all. These are people who protected the community, who wanted equality. And very tricky, kind of what this AI is doing today, they pin people like the Black Panthers who are self-defense and about community and building community, and try to parallel with this false equivalency with groups like the Klan. Because now, if you equate these two, then you automatically think that this black group is just a hate group that wants to terrorize white people and take over. Not the case. So we got to be very careful about, with big words, delineation of how we separate and have these people presented in society as well. Now, he would live his time, I'm speeding up just a little bit, running a grocery store that he owned in Georgia. He would have FBI surveillance, he'd be interrupted, but also very respected as he would continue his work in the community and many communities after his stint in prison. In 1999, he was pulled over by a police officer for a suspected stolen vehicle. He was found to have a police badge in his pocket and a bill of sale in his pocket explaining his possession of the stolen car. And he claimed he had been issued an honorary police badge by the mayor, John Jackson, who also served as the mayor of Alabama, of one of the parts in Alabama as well. Now, just to fast forward, everything was verified about why he had the car, why he had the badge, and everything too. They went back to pick him up. We'll go through all the details. I'm just trying to find a way to speed it up so I can wrap it up and not make this a whole documentary. Uh, and there was a shootout that caused two officers to be offed. There were no prints on any of the weapons that he said he had. He was said to be wounded. They found neither the blood of the officers or H. Rap Brown at the scene. There were bullet holes in the shot into the car and none out. Just a bunch of wonky information that he's had to serve a life sentence that he got like 2 life sentence for, and that's why he was in that prison in Georgia, which of course he would die in uh, two uh, 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 2 days ago, from up to 2 days ago, basically. And this is H. Rap Brown, Jamil Abdullah Al-Amin. And we should know his name. And we should also, we have people alive today, like Angela Davis, who put everything on the line that are still out in society. Imagine everything. This is a big deal. It's a movement that after this in the 60s and 70s, that this person would be working at a grocery store somewhere in Georgia. You mean in my college days, if I knew better, probably could have taken some road trips out and meet the man. Here's some words from him himself. At one of the height of its times between Snick there and the Black Panther movement.
What about politics? Where do black people fit into the political spectrum right now, or should they at all?
Well, politics as defined by the geographical and influential spheres of this country is irrelevant to black people and is irrelevant to the masses of people. The vote has been used as a tool of oppression against black people. I mean, Camus raises a very good point when he says, what better way to enslave a man than give him the vote and call him free? See, it does not profit black people or poor people anything to have the vote and not be able to select the candidates who they want to choose. Now, how can you choose between Lyndon Johnson, Nixon, Agnew, Wallace, and Humphrey? There is no choice. Evil is evil. There's nothing in between that.
There was some lesser candidates. Dick Gregory running for office, Eldridge Cleaver.
I think the vote can only be used as a tool of organization. We can only use the vote to organize our people. Now, to really believe that we can put someone in office and that these people would be responsive to our needs is naive, politically naive. Because even if one of the black candidates who ran for office was to take the office of president, then black people must be prepared to fight against that person.
Why?
Because, you see, the system mandates the action of the individual. The individual does not determine how this country will function. This country works off the military-industrial complex, which means that it's...
That was in 1968. This could have been released yesterday. Do you agree? Do you agree with anything that he says? R.I.P. H. Rap Brown, Jimmy Cliff, Mother Fletcher, anybody else who struggled, passed away, committed for the good of mankind. Thank you for checking me out. I'd be interested in any comments. Make sure that you like, share, subscribe, support the discussion. Meet me at 9 o'clock Friday for the live then. Appreciate you. Be good to each other. Peace.